You want to win at sports betting? Well, at Betting Analyst, we are on a mission to help you become a winner. In today's episode, we are going to discuss tennis betting and what you will need to understand. If you like this type of video, then please give us a like and subscribe. I'm Tony from Betting Analyst. We'll see you soon. How to make money betting on tennis. This is what we're going to discuss today. And the following are going to be the considerations that you're going to have to take on board. Now, you might want to do your own sports modelling or just analyse matches on your own behalf. Whatever the case, let's get into this analysation. Yes. Right. The first thing to consider is form. It's not just the win-loss. You need to consider who they played. So, look at what was expected from that match. Yes, the recent form of a player, the year-to-date form of a player, and the overall expectancy. If you go into something like one of the live scores, you can see the actual betting of those matches and what was expected. If a player is obviously beating favourites on a regular basis, it might become interesting for one reason or the other. But take on board the expectancy, what was expected of that result. Look for reasons, contingencies, injuries, etc. We're going to discuss these in a while. And also patterns, the time of the year of tournaments, etc. Right. Now, with regards to our next session, it's on rank. Right. Rank is relative, it's factor related. So think about how high a player was at their best, the career I rank. Today, you're going to look at the current rank of a player because that's showing you really the level of form that they've been in. But like I said, you're also going to have to think of those contingencies, whether they played often, whether they didn't, or whatever, right? And then a player's ranks can obviously be different surface to surface. Some players are better on clay, some players are better on hard courts, some on grass, whatever. So you're going to have to look into that and think about it, right? Make your own ranking based on the knowledge and the information you're gathering. And the last is potential. If an 18-year-old rank 100 in the world, right, but they've gone from 300 that season, the chances are that they're going to probably be 50 by the end of the year. So you think about the potential of a player and just be realistic about where you're at, where they can head. Surface and conditions. Yeah. Watch for changes during the day. Now, when I say this, it's basically, if the weather gets heavy, if it's sun shining, if it's overcast, players, funnily enough, it will affect the ball speed, it will affect them, it will affect the result. So just to have a slight feeling for that. Yes. Consider the player's profile, the win-loss on various surfaces, right? You could go to something like tennislive.net and you can, when you click on the player's name, you can actually see their percentage of wins on different courts. But again, take into account what we've already mentioned. Yes. Look for parallels, like indoor and clay courts. They play pretty much the same. But also, even some hard courts do, some are slower than others, depending on the climate, and the weather at the time. So, again, try to find out if it's a baseline that's scored, if they're expected to be a bit faster and whatever, because it will show you what you expect of that player. Yes. And also watch matches and look into how the court is actually playing, because visually it's more important to get a feeling for what's happening rather than taking past reference. The time of the day, playing in the midday sun is going to be a lot harder than obviously playing at night, but the ball's going to move slower at night. So if it's under floodlights or if it's it could have an effect. There could be wind conditions changing. Winds tend to be heavier during the day than in the evening or early morning. So again, it's a consideration. And like we mentioned, the weather, the humidity, heat and wind. It's very important to gauge the level of a player's well-being. Right. So obviously you see some players dressed like mummies. You know, they've bandaged up to the eyeballs, and you can see that they're not moving well. You know there's going to be a problem there. So also, the player's body language. This is especially important if you're betting in play. Look at their, you know, demeanour, how they're hanging their head, if they're really into the game, or if it's just like they're going through the motions. Yes. Recent withdrawals and retirements will tell you quite a bit about an actual player's well-being, because, you know, if they've just withdrew from the last 2 tournaments, or they retired drawing games, then it should be a little bit of a concern. Also think about this for betting purposes, because I mean, if you're betting sets or the number of games, it's going to obviously be dependent on the match finishing. So sometimes you're better off saying, I'm not going to bet on the number of games or the handicap. I'd rather just take the outright, because I will get paid once the ball has been hit. Right. Also, the time since they last played. You've got to think about, you know, if they're playing regular, if it's a first appearance, and then you can sort of get a feeling of what should be expected, right? And look at a player's movement. Because the movement, what that's going to tell you about something is, you know, you can see if they're willing to put in the effort. And that brings us nicely on to motivation. Big tournaments are no-brainers. Everybody is there to play their absolute best tennis. They want to arrive there at peak on that day. But do they want it in, you know, considering the next tournament? Do they want this tournament? If it's just a match prior to, or tournament prior before the French Open, then they might just be going there for 1 or 2 games, or 1 or 2 matches, and moving on. I mean, that didn't happen, as we know, with this year's, but it could happen with Krejcikova, for example. Yes, but again, you know, you're going to have to take that into consideration. The prize money, I mean, you know, winning a tournament, an ITF tournament, is probably going to pay the same as about getting through the first round of a Grand Slam. So, you know, you've got to take into consideration, are they there? Do they really want it? Because the prize money is big enough. Yes. The points available, obviously that gets the mire up the rankings. Sometimes you need ranking points to qualify for certain tournaments, to make sure that you can avoid qualifications, and also to get in the end of the season bigger tournaments. Yes. And then, of course, the opposition. If a top player is in one of these like minor tournaments, and the opposition looks quite stern, you know, it looks like a serious challenge, you might want to think about swerving that player, purely because they might not make that effort. But if it's somebody way down the rankings, they'll probably just take, you know, go on and win the game, right? Past efforts, horses for courses, and so on. Yes, this is very important if you really want to understand what you're doing. Right. So moving on to location. Yeah, lots to consider here, obviously. The journey, trip, how far is it to travel from one place to the other? If the player was in China yesterday playing in a tournament, the chances are that a day and a half later they're not going to arrive in you know, the US and play at their peak. So take that into consideration. That's obviously with the time zone, the jet lag, etc., etc. Yes. Support local fans. You know, if it's a local player, they're going to get cheered on. Now, in places like Romania, they're probably going to get cheered on even a lot more, and it's going to put off opponents. So take this on board, right? And the preparation time. Have they had proper time to prepare for this tournament? Also, looking towards the regional weather forecast, because I mean, this is bringing us back a little bit, but at the same time, it does matter in terms of how a player's performance is going to be. Yeah. Brings us on to tournament history, of course. History often repeats itself. I would definitely say to you that if you know the sort of horses for courses theory, if they won a tournament last year, they'll probably be able to win it again, because it's just, they also need these points again. They need to keep them on board. If they lose points, they drop in the rankings. So look at past performance in the tournament. The changes in date, surface, I mean, if it's moved in the time of the year, or the surface has changed, like Istanbul, for example, sometimes you play it on hard courts, sometimes you play it on clay. Watch for any kind of changes. The prize money ranking, sometimes I mean, with regards to the prize money, if the prize money's gone up, obviously better players might turn up, right? But also look at the ranking of the player that you're actually trying to interpret, right? Then and now. I mean, if they was ranked 10 at the time and they're 50 now, then the chances are that they're not going to play at the same level. But if it's the opposite way, then it's a consideration. Yes. So the competition is also the same. If the prize money's gone up, the competition might be better, and if the prize money's gone down, it might be worse, or it might just be the proximity of the next tournament. And the last thing is expectancy at that time and expectancy now. So you're trying to really evaluate about what's happened in the past, right? Also, very important, proximity, and this is really something that you need to think through. When did somebody last play? Now, if they was in a final or something on a Sunday and they've got to turn up to another tournament on a Monday, right, and start playing on a different service in a different country, it's going to be quite tough. So go through the player's profile. Some players take back-to-back tournaments well, some players do not. The recovery and preparation time. Again, we've partly discussed that, but some players need time to recover. Some players don't need as much time. Some players are better when they're actually playing a lot of games simultaneously, almost, yes. And the planned schedule. Look at what's up next. Are they just there to sort of go through the motions? Will fatigue be an issue, or are they there to prepare for the next tournament? But so think about the planned schedule, etc. Yes. The stage of tournament. Now this is important. Some players start tournaments fast, and some players start tournaments slow and build into it. The fast ones, they a lot of them win first rounds, win second rounds, but then they're nothing in the third or fourth round. Other ones are very hit and miss. They either go out in the first round or make the first round and then go into the third, fourth round, or even the semi-finals and finals, etc. So look, because there's no two players are the same. That's the most important thing. So look what is typical for that particular player that you're evaluating. Yes, quick starters, like I say, are well prepared. Others grow into tournaments, and the consistency of a player, because with these hit and miss players, obviously they're not very consistent, right? And erratic results. I mean, losing at odds of 1.15 one week and winning at odds of 5.0 the next week is also a sort of telling factor. Yes. Consider past head-to-heads. Matchups can be very revealing. So you need to look at the lifetime matchups, but if something took place 10 years ago, it might have less relevance. So recent obviously is more relevance. If they've already played 3 times against each other that year and one player is leading 3-0, it might mean something. The surface could also affect the head-to-head. If a clay player is playing a grass player on clay, then obviously they'd be expected to win, and vice versa. So take into consideration the surface, and also the bookmakers' expectancy, or the chance, right? And also you've got a lot of changes since then. Some players run into form, some players have gone out of form, so improvement or the opposite. Right, these 10 further considerations. The type of opponent. If somebody's playing the baseliner and they've got a good record against baseliners, you might think, okay, they'll win this game based on the fact that they're playing the baseliner and they're more suited by that type of player, right? This slow quick starters, right? This is particularly beneficial for in-play betting. Some players are so pumped up, they come onto the court, they go 1-2, 3-0 up. But then the other player gets into the game. So, be careful. Just think about this for what you expect to happen within the match itself, yes? The match length. assess handicaps. Some make heavy weather of winning. I mean, if you take somebody like Petra Martic and whatever, she often goes over like the full 3 sets. Some players just need 3 sets. Some players get the job done quickly. So if you are betting like a minus 1.5 set, then look for somebody that has actually got a fantastic record of winning 2-0, and as opposed to somebody who makes heavy weather of winning tournaments. And also you need to think about the the fatigue value of playing too many games. That could also be affecting how late they get into tournaments, the stage. So reliability. Now, if everything was reliable, right, then bookmakers would have it easy as well, right? So predictability isn't always good for betting. I would just say that. So I mean, that's the advantage with WTA, because they're less predictable. You get some massive odds about players that have at least got a chance, because you need to take into consideration all these other factors, right? Watch for changes. Like the night covers, they play slower, so again you've got to watch for anything that's changed during that day. So if they've planned to play at 4 o'clock in the midday sun, it's going to be different if that match is then being put off tonight undercover or whatever. So taking those into consideration, right? Getting onto the betting side of things, you'll need the right bookmaker accounts. Just squeeze out every little bit of juice that you can, right? The higher odds equal higher return on investment. Use Pinnacle opening pre-match lines. We've gone through this in another video. This will give you an idea of what they're expecting, and if you take out the juice like we've showed you in the other video, we'll put the link at the bottom, then you can get plenty of betting value based on what others are guiding you to do. Yes. Bet the odds and not the player. It's obvious. It's like with everything, just like with buying a new car. Everything's got a price. If somebody's offering you a 20,000 car for 15,000, you'll be tempted to take it. But if they're offering you 20,000 car for 25,000, you're probably going to tell them to get stuck. It's the same in betting. Put it into chance. You've got to say this player's got a 83.33% chance of winning. The other one's got a 16.66% chance of winning. And what does that mean? It means odds of 1 to 5 and 5 to 1 as such, right? So you evaluate the player's chance and work it back from there. Yes. Also, always think you can only control what you can control, right? So I mean, if the bookmakers haven't priced how you would want them to price, there's nothing you can do about it, I'm afraid. So just think about don't be too upset also if players are losing games at matches that they should win, if things are going against you, right? You can only control getting it right from your side. And the last thing is, I would always say, if you can, attend tournaments, right? Honestly, really, really telling. When you get out there and you get into watching a tournament, you can see the movement of a player. You can see what people on the TV can't see. You can see how they're meeting, whether the players are really interested or not, right? It will show, honestly, it shows you a lot, and you can get a major chance by attending tournaments. So all I would like to say again is thanks for watching. If you made it right to the end, you're through to boot camp again. And yeah, we hope to see you soon in the next one. So please do subscribe, and if you want more, we'll do one on football, some on racing, and we'll cover more with aspects of the actual betting itself. Take care for now. Bye bye.